Okay, so we've gone through the basics of whip fishing, which is about the simplest form of coarse fishing you can get. Now moving on from that, we're going to look at float fishing, which again is very simple and you don't need a lot of equipment to do it. So what I'm going to go through now is how to put together a basic float fishing setup. First of all, the equipment that you're going to need is a float rod. I've got a 3-piece float rod here and a fixed ball reel loaded with some light mono. About 4 pounds break-in strain is ideal. Terminal tackle wise, you're going to need some scissors, a selection of floats, some weights which we call split shot, some float stops, some hooks to nylon and a plummet to help you plumb the depth. Now the main advantage of using a rod and reel for float fishing over a whip is that if you want to fish a bit further out, for example, you can use the rod and the reel to cast your float further out into the water. And also, if you are lucky enough to hook a bigger fish, you can use the settings on the reel to help you play that fish in without snapping your line and losing the fish. Now to set up the rod, it's pretty simple. A lot of float rods come in 3 sections. So to put it together, what you need to do is ensure that you line up all the small eyes along the rod. Okay, the best way to do that is to look down the blank through the eyes like you might do on a gun sight, just making sure they're all lined up. So I'm going to do that with all 3 sections until I've assembled the rod. So now the rod's assembled, we're going to attach the reel. The reel that I'm using is called a fixed spool reel, or more recently they're called match reels because they tend to be used quite a lot in fishing matches. To attach the reel to the rod, we need to locate the reel seat. Now on some rods the reel seat is actually fixed and you'll actually screw parts of it onto the reel to fix it in place on the rod. On this rod they're moving, so all we're going to do is attach the reel by lining it up with the first eye on the rod like so, and then pushing this bit on like so, just giving it a twist and making sure that our reel is now in place. Next job to do is then to thread the line through all the eyes of the rod. Now as you can see, the line is stored here on a line storage clip on the reel, so what we need to do is take it out of that first. The next step is to thread the line through this part of the reel, which is known as the bail arm. So we're going to thread the line through there, and basically the bail arm, that enables us to release line from the spool when it's open, and when it's closed like it is now, it helps us wind the line back on the spool. So as you can see, we can't pull any more line out at the moment because the bail arm's closed. So what we're going to do is open the bail arm like so, and then we can start threading the line through the eyes on the rod. Let's thread the line through all the eyes on the rod, and then when we've done that, we're going to pull down a rod length's worth of line which will allow us to attach our terminal tackle. Okay, so that's the rod all threaded up, ready to go. Now let's attach the terminal tackle. Okay, so just to recap on what terminal tackle we're going to use, I've got a selection of floats here. I've got some float stops, some split shot, different weights. I've got some hooks to nylon and a plummet to help us plumb the depth. So the first step is going to be to attach our float. So let's have a little look at how we do that. Okay, so to attach our float, we're going to use these float stops. These are really easy and convenient to use because it enables you to slide the float up and down the line without damaging it, and it also allows you to adjust depth quickly if you need to. So to put one of these on, they come on these metal loops which you simply put your line through like so, and then thread the float stop onto the line. So that's our first float stop in place. We're then going to take our float and place it on the line. So for this session I'm just going to use quite a light float because I'm not going to be fishing too far out, so I don't have to cast. I'm just using this basic insert waggler. I'm going to thread the line through the hole on the float till I get up to the float stop. To lock it in place I'm going to need to put on another float stop, so let's repeat the process again like so, threading it onto the line, and now our float is locked in place. If we need to, we can easily move it up and down the line, as you can see. The next step is going to be to attach our hook to nylon. Now I recommend using hooks to nylon because they're very easy and they're convenient, and they give you an excellent presentation for your bait. They come in these nice little storage wallets,
They're very easy to attach, so let's see how we do that. All I'm going to do is tie a basic overhand loop knot. So there we go, I've tied a basic overhand loop knot in my main line. I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm going to trim down that tag end. Like so, so that's nice and neat. I'm going to take the hook to nylon out of the packet. Just carefully unravel it so I don't get any knots in it. Like so. And as you can see, you've got a loop on the end of the hook to nylon. So what we're going to do is tie a loop to loop knot, and the way to do that is if we get the loop that we've just tied on the main line and pass that through the loop on the hook to nylon. We then take the hook and we pass that through our loop on our main line, pulling it tight, and that is our loop to loop knot. Now that we've done that, we're ready to add some weights called split shot so that the float sits correctly in the water. Now if I look closely on the body of the float, it's got recommended weights that you put on it. So this one says 3 number 4. So I'm going to get 3 number 4 split shot and I'm going to put it on my line just below the float. Now a lot of people may pinch these on with their teeth. I wouldn't recommend doing that because it's quite easy to damage your teeth. Just give it a firm pinch on with your thumb and forefinger. What you should also do is try and space the shot evenly down your main line. This is so that the bait on your hook falls naturally through the water when you cast it out. So I've left fairly even gaps between 3 split shot on my line. What I'm going to do is just test this out in the water and just make sure that the float is sitting correctly. Well, as we can see there, it's not really sitting properly at the moment. It takes a while to stand up properly and there's a bit too much of the tip showing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on another number 4 shot and see if we can get that sitting a little bit better. Right, I've put another number 4 shot on, so let's just check what that's like when we put the float in the water. That's great. As you can see, we've only got the red tip showing now, so it's nice and sensitive and we'll be able to detect bites very easily because we've only got a small part of the red tip showing. So now that we've done that, we're going to plumb up like we did in the whip fishing segment and make sure we're fishing at the right depth. Now the fishery manager tells me that this area in the margins near the bank is very productive on this particular lake, so that's where I'm going to try to begin with. So let's plumb it up and start fishing. Okay, I'm all set at the correct depth now. I've put some bait on, same as we were doing with the whip fishing. Got some red maggots on. I've put some loose feed down by the reeds there. So I'm not even going to bother to cast at the moment because I'm fishing actually quite close in. So all I'm going to do, like I did with the whip, is basically swing out my float rig to that area and see if we can get a couple of bites. Let's see how we get on. Oh, we've got a bite there. Yes! That's straight away, we're into a fish. What we got here then? Oh, lovely little roach. So we're just going to unhook this little fella. There we go, straight away, within a matter of minutes, we got a bite. Nice little roach. Let's put this fella back and see if we can get a couple more. Right, well, that's the float fishing session done. We had a great time there, caught plenty of fish, lots of variety of different species, and it just goes to show that it doesn't need to be complicated. It can be very easy using basic tackle, basic baits like maggots. You can have a great day's fishing.